I am the problem. Me. I'm the guy. I'm the problem. Ask any lily-white liberal elitist. It's been me the whole time, if you didn't know. According to liberal and progressive doctrine, it's me. I'm to blame for the problems of America, and frankly, all the problems the world has ever known can be laid directly at my feet, so say the enlightened ones on high. It's not because I make too much money or not enough. It's not because I take government handouts. Not because I'm addicted to drugs or have any violent tendencies. No, it's not because I smoke either or anything else. It has to do with just one thing. One thing only. I'm white. And therefore, according to Joe Biden and all the other far-left socialists running around in Washington, it is me, and anyone that looks like me, that's to blame for everything that's ever gone wrong. And unless my kind are kept in check, it will be the end of freedom, democracy, and, of course, America. None of that's true, of course, but that is the next big talking point, and we have heard this before lots of times. That doesn't make it any more true than it was back then. It's also a clear indication that the left keeps seeing polling numbers for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and realize they're in very serious political peril. In fact, one might say it looks like the ship is sinking, right alongside the feeble president's failing poll numbers. And of course, it isn't lost on anyone how ironic it is that the left wants to play racial politics and blaming white Americans for the ills of society while running an old white guy for president again. But here's why they're doing it. How about this poll from Fox News? A 30% drop in support among blacks for President Biden, with about half of it shifting toward Donald Trump. This is why the left is desperate. So, how frantic are the Democrats today? Well, the shooting in Jacksonville has become just about the only thing they're talking about for days. They're shrill and screaming about white supremacy, how it is the biggest threat to the nation, that it's far more pervasive and prevalent and dangerous than anyone actually realizes. Of course, that's all false as well. It's been over 160 years now since Democrats got together to create the Ku Klux Klan. Almost 100 years since the Klan reached its heyday in 1920 with about 6 million members during the administration of President Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat himself and one of the most openly racist presidents of all time. In fact, he ranks right up there with the openly racist Lyndon Baines Johnson, but it was Wilson that screened the openly racist film Birth of a Nation in the White House itself. And make no mistake, Democrats don't care much about factual historical accounts of what their party really is and, well, always has been. They don't want to talk about Wilson or Democrat Governor George Wallace, another outspoken racist who ran for president on the idea of segregation now, segregation tomorrow, and segregation forever. All to keep blacks and whites in America separate, and more importantly, for the Democrats to keep the black population in its place. Of course, the Democrats now claim falsely, of course, that at some point in the 1960s or somewhere, parties switched. Republicans became Democrats, Democrats became Republicans. It's fanciful and it's a fantasy. But does that mean that Ronald Reagan was a Democrat actually as president? Richard Nixon too? Was JFK actually a Republican? Well, no, of course. You see, all the good guys are Democrats and the, quote, bad guys are Republicans. So how about Jimmy Carter, who was elected in 1976? There's a whole lot of blue down south, isn't there? In fact, the South is the only reason Jimmy Carter won that presidency. That's weird. This was after Nixon's Southern strategy, where Democrats claimed he whispered racist dog whistles to Southerners to get their vote. Was Jimmy Carter just more openly racist than Republican Gerald Ford in that election? Is that what it took? The whole idea that the party switched is, of course, ludicrous, because it has always been Republicans that have led the charge to fight for equal rights for blacks and, frankly, all Americans in this nation. Everyone should know that by now. I mean, the party was created to end slavery. Which part did you miss in class on that one, lefties? Republicans were created to end slavery. How about a refresher? Democrats wanted to keep black people enslaved so badly, they caused a civil war that cost 660,000 Americans their lives and left 1.5 million more wounded. The North fought to end the practice and save the country. Later, President Dwight D. Eisenhower was the man that sent the National Guard to Little Rock in 1957 to enforce the federal law of allowing black students into previously all-white schools And Eisenhower was the president who signed the first major civil rights bill into law. Did you know that? It happened in 1957 as well. And he did so with the backing of Republican senators in large part, not Democrats. But history doesn't matter, and neither do facts in 2023 in Democrat politics. But let me tell you, my friends, facts matter to me. How about some more facts that are a bit more recent? How about the fact that Martin Luther King Jr. was a Republican by all accounts, and LBJ used language to describe black voters that I cannot repeat here, nor would I want to. He used it as his impetus for signing the Civil Rights Act of 1965. It was not to help out blacks, but to help Democrats get and keep power by getting black votes, period. And of course, Joe Biden is the man that attended the funeral of the former exalted cyclops of the Klan, Senator Robert Byrd of West Virginia, and praised him. He was thanked by the likes of Hillary and Bill Clinton, and that praised, and surprisingly, Barack Obama. But he didn't just attend the funeral, he eulogized the man. And the media has gotten ahead of this story. Here's how the headlines read when they fact-check this claim. Biden did not eulogize former KKK Grand Wizard. That's the headline, but of course, if you dig a little bit into the story, which most people won't, it reads this way. Biden did eulogize Senator Robert Byrd when he died, but Byrd was not a Grand Wizard in the Klan. He was a member of the KKK in the early 1940s, but later renounced his affiliation with the hate group. You see how they did that? They lied to you. But to be fair, because the mainstream media certainly isn't, Republicans have had their share of racists too, but to hear the Democrats tell the story today, they're just as pure as the driven snow, while the Republican counterparts are simply evil and a threat to the very nation. That whole theme was dragged out into the open again on Monday, and Joe Biden, who counted many segregationists among his close friends in Washington, worked to gaslight the world again. However, I can read, and I know who he is. I know that 2 million members of the Klan resided in Indiana in 1920. They're almost all Democrats. Again, facts that are easy to verify, and another reason I keep World Book encyclopedias from years gone by, because those facts cannot be erased by the newspeak overlords of today. But Joe, he just blurts out what he's told to say. You know that, like this.
To the point where the intelligence community is determined, the U.S. intelligence community is determined that domestic terrorism rooted in white supremacy is the greatest terrorist threat we face in the homeland. The greatest threat.
Just sad. And sadly, it's not just politicians that are wrapped up in these lies. There are many members of the media that apparently have never read World Book Encyclopedia or any actual books about American history. In fact, they cannot even get recent history right. They just regurgitate the same old trite and false allegations about conservatives and Republicans. Take a listen to this bizarre question.
Does the White House see any connection with the changes that the Florida governor has made in teaching about African American history to the kind of violence that we saw in Jacksonville?
You know, it is truly sad when so much ignorance gets so much exposure in the media. No wonder millions of people in this country are just so ill-informed. Like Ronald Reagan famously said, the problem with my liberal friends is that they know so much that just isn't true. I mean, let's be honest, like we always are here. The Democrats have no policies that actually benefit black Americans or any Americans in general. The spending is out of control, creating a nightmare scenario in the economy. And then mocking people for not believing that Bidenomics is actually good for everyone is a big fat loser, too. The border, the billions to Ukraine, while Hawaii is pushed to the back burner to be forgotten again. It really is appalling, and that is why there is a shift in this nation, away from the losing policies and back to a common sense approach, and why people are willing to vote for people they don't like to get the policies they do.